Surgeons of Reddit, what's the weirdest object you've had to remove from someone's butt? I'm a vet. Dog had eaten a whole roll of poop bags, the plastic baggies people use to clean up after their pets on walks. They unspooled in his guts and spread from stomach to colon. His owners realized what had happened when he started pooping out bags, and brought him in through ER. My co-worker went in to cut him, and the scene she described was hilarious. He would intermittently strain a little, and poop out a little section of bags. Someone would tear them off, and he'd be okay for a bit, then poop out some more. Like he was dispensing them for himself. He did great after surgery. Endotech here, had a guy come in with a capped section of PVC pipe filled with mercury because he liked the sloshing when he jerk in his turkin. Had to call in hazmat, and security had to be called when he became violent because they wouldn't give the mercury-laden pipe back. I wasn't the surgeon, I was the patient's family doc, and took care of him in the hospital for his short stay after. He had a cue ball get stuck. Not sure exactly what he thought would be the way to get it out. We had a lot of trouble getting it out. The conversation of the surgeons trying to come up with a way to get it out was pretty hilarious. ER nurse. I've seen baseballs, loads of dildos, cans of soda, vegetables. There should be a public service announcement about using dildos in the bum. It needs to have balls, or some sort of base so it doesn't get lost up there. Women's vaginal dildos don't need them, as there is only so far it will go. A doctor I worked with once told a man, it's okay if you want to put things in your rectum. You just have to use the right things. Years ago my nurse wife told me a man had an apple removed from his butt, but I never understood how this could be possible. I often think about this but have never asked her for more details. An enormous silicone butt plug which broke off at its base inside the patient. It was shaped like a soft cone on a stalk, with the base at the bottom. Had to remove it in pieces. Also, an Orangina bottle 2 years before this butt plug. A friend of mine is a surgery resident, and during one of her trauma shifts a meth head walked in with an incandescent light bulb in his colon. It was shoved in with the wide part first. They were dilating the rectum in an attempt to remove it, and the resident in charge of the procedure managed to accidentally separate the metal base from the glass globe, which immediately shattered under the pressure of the colon. They had to perform a partial colectomy to resolve the complication. Meth is a hell of a drug. A foreign body per rectum is a fairly common occurrence. In my time rotating in the ER, the most common things have been yucca roots, avocados, shampoo bottles, etc., but that light bulb story is still unmatched. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen the X-ray. When I worked in the ER, we had a guy come in with a 6-battery mag light stuck up Main Street. The funny part is that it was inserted bulb out and it was turned on. So we laid him down prone and the doc spread his cheeks, then the room lit up like he just cracked open Marcellus Wallace's briefcase. Back when I was an ER tech, we had this guy come in with a full-size bottle of VO5 shampoo up his butt. Of course he said he fell on it in the shower. You could clearly see it on the X-ray. It was pretty spectacular. The best part was he knew exactly what needed to be done to get it out, suggesting that this wasn't the first time. He asked for conscious sedation and for someone to pull it out. Well, the ED doctor tried that, then tried to manually get it out with forceps, and was essentially elbow deep in this dude, but couldn't get it. He had to go to the operating room to get it taken out. I bumped into the surgeon a few days later and asked him how it went. He joked to me that after we knocked him out, I grabbed a plunger out of the bathroom and got it out that way, but then told me all he had to do was stick some suction up there till he felt it connect, and then slowly pulled it out. According to the surgeon, this guy never presented any sort of identification or insurance card, and demanded to pay his entire bill before he left. Usually takes some time for bills to get finalized. He paid it completely in cash, and then left via a taxi. Not but once my grandmother, a lifelong alcoholic, forgot she had a tampon in and inserted another, jamming the first one up incredibly far. She tried to get my poor grandfather, a man with zero training, to remove it. Even with a flashlight and tweezers, he couldn't do it. They went to the ER. Doctor said my grandfather futzing around her vag had caused extra, unnecessary trauma. I know this because toward the end of her life, she had dementia and she told us all sorts of weird shit. She told this particular story in a fancy restaurant in front of most of our family and a mortified waiter. R.I.P., Grandma. I miss your insane stories. One time I was changing my son's diaper because he pooped. I was wiping his butt and noticed a hair sticking out of his butthole, so I'm already like wanting to die because I have to pull this hair out of my kid's ass. So anyways, I'm pulling this long ass hair out, and as I get the last of it out, I realize that it is wrapped around a basically undigested green bean. So yeah, non-medical person here, but pulling a green bean wrapped around a hair out of my kid's ass was definitely the worst. Yeah, doc here. As previous posters suggest, it becomes hard to distinguish what is weird anymore, so judge for yourselves. 3 lemons, about a foot of broom handle, a light bulb, which did not survive his adventure, so many toilet brushes, inserted brush and handle first, a series of toothpicks, any number of bottles, aerosol cans, etc. My favorite case was a simple dildo. We's read it and the radiologist's report read, there is an approximately 15 cm cylindrical foreign body in the large intestine extending proximally from the rectum. Judging by the indistinct outline of the foreign body, I suspect it is still on. Not a surgeon, but, wowie, do I know a lot of cases involving falling on things and other such excuses. Here are just some of the things I know. A Buzz Lightyear action figure. A Barbie doll. Plaster of Paris, they wanted a mold of his colon. Instead, it had to be cut open as it was glued shut by the plaster. Glasses, the sight kind. Jewelry, mostly necklaces. Finally, on a rather dark note, if you're a fool who slipped something up their black hole, 'cause the butt sucks things in disturbingly well, they can't retrieve, please, for the love of God, go to your doctor. People have died due to toxic shock due to this shit. A guy here died of it in 2 weeks due to having a dildo stuck up there and never went to his docs. Your pride can recover, but you can't recover from death. Not me, but a good friend I have known since 6th grade who is an emergency room doctor. Straight couple in their early 20s and they were using a vibrator on her. They switch, he said it was his first time, and they had lube everywhere and the slim 6-inch vibrator disappeared all the way up in him while it was still on. They waited and tried to get it out on their own and finally went into the ER. They were going to wait till the batteries died, but it was getting late. My buddy tried to get it out but couldn't get it. He told the guy they might have to do surgery to get it. The guy asks my buddy if he has to go in, can he call his mom and tell her. My buddy laughs and says, you are 22 and you get to call your mom to tell her you have a buzzing vibrator in your ass that might be perforating your colon. Then my buddy remembers a guy he went to medical school who works in the same hospital. He has freaky long thin fingers like E.T. that might work. The other doctor gloves up and gets the vibrator still buzzing out of him. Just to FYI, it is really easy for this to happen, so limit the lube on your hands. Your colon gets like a suction on it and things go in easy, like what happened to these guys. Somewhere out there in the world there is that one deeply unfortunate person who was actually cooking while naked, who did slip on the kitchen floor, and whose ass really did slam down on the freshly peeled potato. 1 in a million chance. Poor guy probably went to the ER figuring no one will ever believe me, and just told the attending physician, I'm into some weird kinky tuber sex play. Not my story, my friend is a radiographer. A guy came into the hospital with Barbie dolls up his butt. After scans, one came out without too much issue, but the other was too far up. They were worried that if it was pulled out, its arms would open and puncture the bowel. So they scheduled surgery, the X-ray staff waiting excitedly for news. The surgeon then returned and with a serious voice announced, we've found Ken. I was an RN at a busy Detroit emergency department. A homeless woman, frequent flyer and drug abuser came in to see us with abdominal pain. The X-ray revealed 17 oval-shaped objects in her vaginal space. They were removed by a very diligent medical resident armed with a speculum and McGill forceps, with the aid of an ultrasound tech. 17 Barbie doll heads. Their removal was made a bit easier by their long hair. We received a patient with horrible pain that felt like constipation. He couldn't poop and laxatives weren't helping. We soon found out that the blockage wasn't just constipation, it was a string of beads several meters long that had become tangled into an ugly ball inside. I had to snip it apart and carefully pull pieces of it out. When most of it was out, his asshole became a rocket engine with diarrhea as the propellant. Not a surgeon, but as a former paramedic I brought them lots of business and feel qualified to chime in. I brought a guy to the hospital with severe abdominal pain and rectal bleeding. The dispatch nature was accidental injury, not life-threatening per patient. The chief complaint was I put something in my butt and can't get it out. Patient refused to elaborate on something. Delivered patient to the ED and was filling out my run report when the charge nurse came into the EMS room and said, "Come here, you have to see this." I followed her to the little X-ray alcove next to his room as a surgical orderly was wheeling him out of the room along with a nurse and the ED attending. The charge nurse flipped on the light board. Yes, I'm going old enough. X-rays used to be film-based, and I stared in confusion for a few seconds. I could make out the pelvis, both femurs, spine, etc., but there were other hard objects shown. She pulled down the first X-ray and put up the second, which is when I made out a small animal skull and I realized the other objects were bones as well. I looked over to the nurse and started, "Is that a rat?" She finished. Dude stuck a rat up his ass, and was rushed to surgery because it chewed the shit out of him, pun intended, before suffocating and had perforated his colon in multiple locations. He survived to discharge and is presumably still out there. My partner and I never did determine the method of administration, but I'm picturing one of those Happy Trail plastic tube cage setup things. Thank you for watching Reddit Central. Make sure to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you never miss any new videos. Feel free to share any similar stories in the comments below.